All right, guys, we're doing it. We're going to be talking about sex. Today, we're going to be looking at the physical elements of a marriage. And guys, watch to the end when I give my opinion of how often a married couple should be having sex. Now, before we get into the main part of the video, I want to take just a quick second, ask that you guys please like and subscribe to my channel. I put out new videos on Thursday and they are all faith-based. So if you are looking for a bold and yet balanced and always biblical look at our modern world, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button and don't forget to ring that bell. So today we're going to be looking at 3 reasons or 3 elements of the physical relationship between a husband and a wife, but I got to give a couple of disclaimers. Disclaimer number 1, I am super uncomfortable to be making this video, and I think that that is not only the point, but it is the reason why it needs to be made. Guys, I read a phrase a couple of years ago that said that Satan is just as happy with sex outside of a marriage as he is with no sex in a marriage, but the church only condemns the one. Guys, in the Christian community, we do need to become more comfortable with having this conversation about the physical aspect of a marriage, and so we're starting today. Fair warning, I'm uncomfortable about it, but that's okay. So if you're uncomfortable watching, I get it, lean into it. I would encourage you, if you're married, to go ahead and continue watching it. And my second disclaimer is for those married people that maybe aren't engaging in a physical marriage. Guys, first of all, hear me. I don't want you to feel in any way, shape, or form condemned or offended by anything that I say in this video. I hope that you watch it with an open mind, and I hope that you understand that if you and your spouse, if you guys experience a happy and joy-filled marriage without having the physical side of a marriage, then I am for it, right? I am here for you. But I would tell you that you're probably the exception and not the rule. And since we're teaching about it, I need to talk about the rule. I need to talk about what the Bible says. And the Bible is very clear. It does encourage husbands and wives to engage in a physical relationship for various reasons, which we will be discussing in this video. But don't hear any condemnation with that. I would also say, and this is my little side note, watch this with an open mind. If you haven't engaged in the physical elements of your marriage, maybe open yourself up to the idea to start and to try. You could take a really fantastic marriage and bump it up a notch, and I hope that these 3 reasons that I'm going to give you may encourage you to do so. The first point, and I really think this is the most important, and it better be because I've redone this video 20 times now, but this is the biblical side of things. And guys, there are a ton of scriptures that talk about how husbands and wives should engage in the physical relationship. I'm not going to talk about them here. I'll put them in the description below because they're important to have, but we're going to look at this from a different angle in the Bible. And I hope this makes sense here in a second. Go to John 10:10. It says, "The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full." Guys, we have an enemy, and that is Satan. And so often in the Christian community, when we think about how Satan attacks us as believers, we automatically and immediately go to him trying to tempt us into sin. And sure, that is one of the ways that he does that. He does put that bait out there, and sometimes we pick it up. But another way that he attacks us, and this is far more subtle and it is very difficult to guard against, and that is getting us to believe different lies. And in marriage in particular, one of the lies that the enemy has done a really good job of getting people to believe is that married people don't have sex. And the reason why he does this is because he's not fancy, right? He doesn't care how he reaches his ultimate goal, but his ultimate goal is to distract us. It is to discourage us. What does John 10 say? To steal and kill and destroy, right? He just wants to keep us separated and bound up and distracted from serving God. He's going to accomplish that however he accomplishes it. If he can do that through getting you to have an affair on your spouse, great, he's happy to do that. If he can also accomplish the same thing by keeping sex out of a marriage, by getting you to believe that sex is not important for a husband and a wife, so you don't engage in it, and now you've got this marriage that isn't as deep, that isn't experiencing a connection like it should, and that keeps you separated, awesome. He doesn't care how he accomplishes his goal. He just wants to accomplish his goal. So I love the way the word calls him a thief, because I think that a great way to explain this is by looking at it as a thief and you protecting your home. So think about your home. Picture your home as your marriage. Now, in my particular physical home, we have 5 doors, we have multiple windows, right? So we have several places where a thief could potentially come into our home. And each of those points of entry, we try to make sure that they're locked, that they're guarded, because we don't want anybody coming in and stealing our stuff. Now, think about your marriage. Think about it as a home. There are several areas that the enemy could come in like a thief to steal the joy out of your marriage, the happiness, right? That's his goal. So you need to make sure that each area is locked and guarded. Sex, guys, think of it as a lock on your door. That's why it's so important to do that. This is why Paul talks about in Corinthians that you have to have that physical relationship, because it allows Satan to tempt either the husband or the wife. And so lock your door by having and engaging in a regular physical relationship with your marriage, because you want to protect it. You don't want to give the thief an opportunity for him to come in. Now, you could leave your door unlocked for 6 months and no one can walk in, but how wise is that? Why would you do that? Again, do your due diligence. Think about the enemy and what his ultimate goal is, that his goal is to steal the joy and the love and the peace and the happiness out of your marriage. And he will do it however he can. And one of the ways is through us not locking the door by engaging in a physical relationship. Don't give him an inch, lock the door. All right, guys, so let's talk about the science behind this. And fair warning, I am a huge nerd. So anytime I can find something in science that proves the Bible, I totally geek out. So you've been warned, and I'm apologizing in advance. But we're going to talk about the hormone oxytocin. And guys, that's the hormone that naturally secretes in your body when you have a physical relationship with your spouse. So the reason why I'm just going to say it, having sex with your spouse is important is because your body generates and secretes this hormone, which creates this bond. And they did a study. I was doing some research for my book, Shackled, and I ran across this, and it was absolutely fascinating, and it proves what Paul tells us in Corinthians. The study was this. They took 20 men, all of them in a committed relationship, and they had them rate their significant other's picture versus another woman's picture. So which one was better, A or B, right? All of the men that took a nasal spray that had the hormone oxytocin in it, all of them rated their spouse, their significant other's picture higher than the other woman. Do you guys hear me? All of the men that took the nasal spray oxytocin, when they were shown 2 pictures, a picture of their spouse and a picture of another woman, all of the men that took the oxytocin hormone looked at their spouse in a higher regard. Guys, that's why, and this is why I'm geeked out, that's why Paul tells husbands and wives to engage in the physical relationship, because failure to do so gives an opportunity for the enemy to come in and tempt us, right, with another option. So guys, engaging in a regular physical relationship that secretes that hormone that helps strengthen and create that bond, guys, science proven the Bible right, totally geeking out. So this third element, it is probably the hardest one to talk about, and that is that sex is enjoyable. And yeah, that made me very uncomfortable to say, but we've sort of twisted this in society, and I think if this is kind of a sub-lie within the bigger lie, which is that married couples don't enjoy having sex together, that there's something lost, once you become married with the fun of the physical elements of the relationship. And guys, you can see this in TV shows, you can see this in comics, you can see this all around us. There's this prevailing joke that husbands and wives, once they become married, the sex just becomes boring. And nothing could be further from the truth. And I do think that the reason why God made sex enjoyable is because he intended for us to do this on a regular basis with our spouse. Because it's not enjoyable in the rest of creation, right? Praying mantises aren't lining up on a Saturday night, right, to have this. Yet we still see praying mantises. They still procreate. God could have made sex just a utility activity like that in us. The fact that he made it enjoyable, I think, tells me that he expects us to do it on a regular basis with our spouse. And I think that the reason why is because it's the only activity that I can only do with one person, right? I can have coffee with lots of people, but I'm only having sex with my husband. And so it is an activity that is enjoyable, that we like to do, but it's one that we can only do with one person. And I believe that God designed it that way so that we could strengthen our bond with that one person. Again, remember, relationship with God up here, but right below that is your relationship with your spouse. And so I believe one of the reasons why we have this opportunity to share something with only one person is because that relationship is so important, not just to you, but to your children, to the community. Now, if it's not enjoyable, guys, I would encourage you to figure out why. Again, this is another opportunity to strengthen your bond, is by having conversations about this particular act. Is it uncomfortable? Yes. It will be the first few times, but once you do it and you have those conversations, it not only becomes easier, but you get to learn more about the other person. You get to dive deeper in your relationship, which again is ultimately the goal of having a physical relationship. It isn't just to have a physical relationship, to have one. It is to strengthen the bonds between your spouse, which is so important. And I'm going to share a personal story from my own life. And so I really hope that my husband doesn't watch this, because I don't know that he gave me permission to do this, but this happened a couple years ago. And I think ladies, you guys can relate to this. I just wasn't feeling it. Do you know what I mean? Like I was stressed. I had a lot of stuff going on at work. I felt really overwhelmed. When I looked in the mirror, I really didn't like what I saw. I was, kind of feeling like a chubby bunny, so to speak. And so I just really wasn't feeling sexy. And so anytime my husband would try to engage, I would shoot him down. You guys been there? Well, I started working on me, started getting over myself. I started working out. I was feeling a little bit better, and I tried to initiate. He was not having it. And it was that moment where I was like, Hollywood says that you should be into this. Like, why aren't you into this? And he was like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you are not enjoying this. And he was like, yeah, I am. And I'm like, so we got in a huge fight. Because why not? And at one point in the middle of the argument, I yell at him, this is so stupid. I can't believe that we're fighting because I want to have sex with you, which made us both laugh. And then we were able to talk. And it turns out, and ladies, this is my warning to you. This is why I tell you, figure out how to make it enjoyable. Because I'd blown him off. I had turned him down so many times that he himself wasn't really feeling good about himself. Do you know what I mean? Like Hollywood had lied to me. Men are not always in the mood, right? And so the reason why you shouldn't be just turning down your spouse and not thinking about it is because there are some long-term ramifications if you continually say no. And that's exactly what I experienced. Now, we have since turned it around and things are much better. And I can tell you, in looking at just our marriage in whole as a snapshot from then versus now, it is so much better now. And a large part of it is because we really focused and were intentional about the physical elements of our relationship. So I would encourage you guys to do so. It not only made that element better when we communicated about it, but it made everything else better. It really does. It is the electricity that flows through your house. So don't neglect the physical side of your relationship. Now, here's my how often phrase. How often should a married couple, should a husband and wife be engaging in sex? I would say as often as you need to keep the enemy away, right? As often as you want. That's a communication thing. There's no hard and fast rule. You don't need to do it X many times a week. In fact, don't even put that pressure on you. But sit down and have a conversation. Ask your spouse what they think about it, the frequency, the conversation is so important. Don't neglect it. Sit down and have that and figure out what works best for you. Maybe you need to engage in it several times a week. Maybe it's once a month. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It's whatever works for your relationship. All right, guys, so that's my video on sex in a marriage and why it's important. I hope that helped. But guys, if you are watching this video and you are just like, oh my gosh, that sounds great, but I don't know where to start, don't worry. You're in great company. I would encourage you to start small, right? Sit next to your spouse on the couch, hold his hand, send a flirtatious text. Go watch the last video from last week on the 5 things that you can do to consistently strengthen your marriage. Guys, just be intentional about it. Don't put this off. So often I see people stick their heads in the sand and just assume everything is going to be okay. But take care of this now. Take care of this while everything's okay, and you will be much happier on the other side. I can promise you guys. And guys, I hope this was helpful. If it was in any way, give it a like, give it a share. Let me know in the comment section. If you guys want to hang out with me more, check out my Facebook group. I will post a link in the description below. And guys, come back next week. Next week, we're going to be talking about divorce. That is the other side of this issue with marriage. I think it's incredibly important. I would encourage you to come back. You will not want to miss it.